there's guys around. We're about to break it down like they won the game a million times.
So much winning.
Actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Stephen went out and down. Got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Yeah, that's right. Survivor Know-It-Alls are back, and we are ready to go. Season 44, Stephen Fishbach.
Oh, my gosh. Rob, it feels like just yesterday. You know, I leave the podcast at the end of the finale. They freeze me in carbonite, you know, then they unfreeze me the morning of the new season, and here I am. This is so exciting. How are you?
Stephen, I'm incredible because what a Survivor premiere. We just watched a wild night filled with twists and turns, medical emergencies as far as the eye can see, and we had a history made tonight, Steve. I said it would never happen. A successful shot in the dark was played.
It's an unbelievable. Is it a success? I mean, like, is it successful if no votes are prevented? I guess like it hit. It hit.
I never thought in my lifetime that we would ever see it. I really did. I would have like put in all my chips. It will never happen. Mark my words.
Is the curse is now like it can hit every single time?
Oh, you think we're gonna get hot?
Now it might be a hot streak. Yeah.
Yeah. Hot shot in the dark coming up.
Now's the time to play it. Statistically speaking.
Wild tribal council to kick off season 44. So we've got a lot to do tonight, a lot to unpack here on an unofficial Survivor podcast. Just two friends getting together. Okay. Make no mistake. This is not official. Okay. And we got a lot to do. Of course, busy Thursday coming up that I am going to have not one, but two Survivor exit interviews. We will speak with both Bruce and Maddie coming up on Thursday. So two exit interviews. And then I will speak with the first boot from Survivor 43. Mariah Young is going to join me. We started this last season with Zach Wertenberger, and I think this might be a fun new tradition to have Mariah with me tomorrow to recap everything that's going on, plus much more to talk about this week here, including the feedback show now on Mondays with Chappelle on the recently grenaded Chappelle on the first feedback show of the year. All right, Stephen.
Wait, first big question of the night, Rob. History being made tonight. You're wearing a t-shirt on the podcast. I think maybe for the first time ever.
Yes. No, I've worn a t-shirt before.
Okay. Well, I forgot.
This is a special.
Well, I want to ask about the
new era.
It looks like a parchment.
Sorry for you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know sorry for you?
Yeah.
One of Jeff's new catchphrases of the new era, Stephen.
Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. This is a new when does he say sorry for you? Is that really one of his catchphrases? Since when?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. That was to take the place of come on in, guys, I guess.
He says like come on in and sorry for you.
No, he takes your flint after you lose the challenge. He takes your flint and says, sorry for you.
Wow. I missed that. That's amazing. Sorry for you. That's
I'm
empathy.
sorry
It's
for
the
you
new
that you don't know
sensitive era
this.
of Survivor. I'm sorry for you.
Yeah. All right, Stephen. So here we are. Let's talk about this tribal council. Okay. So much to talk about and unpack from 2 hours of Survivor. Really, really fun start to the season. But Stephen, okay, what the freaking hell happened?
This was one of the funniest tribal councils, I think, of all time, because they've come to a tribe consensus, right? It looked like everyone was going to vote Brandon. And then everyone bails on the vote. They're all so sure that they have a majority vote that first Jamie, and it looked like that was planned in advance, right? She does her shot in the dark. And it looked like that was because of paranoia, right? She had said previously, like, hey, I'm going to play the shot in the dark. Others were saying, okay, she's paranoid, like whatever. Then Matthew plays his shot in the dark, which I want to get into because I think there might have been some valid strategic reasons for that.
Okay.
Then then I don't know. Do we talk about, then I guess Lauren has played her bank a vote
Bank a vote, right?
and so 3 people have not voted. I was thinking, oh my gosh, like Brandon's going to skate by. Like he and one person, maybe Kane, are going to vote together and vote out Maddie. That's not what happened. Brandon, wisely seeing all this chaos, thought, oh my gosh, I should, which like presumably had all this chaos not go down. It did not look like Brandon was going to play his idol, right? It was like 2 people have played kooky things. Like there's a bunch of kookiness happening. I don't know where the votes are going anymore. Like I should just be safe. Was that your read on things?
That's pretty good after the fact of like parsing it all out. My biggest question is like how much of what was happening at tribal council was sort of like, oh my God, what's happening? And how much of it was actually like that there was a lot of information that we, the viewers, did not have. There was discussion about like that to have it be Maddie who was voted out. Maddie's name, I feel like, was not even up for discussion. I feel like that we heard really talk about Lauren. And I really thought Lauren was going to be the name that Jeff read from the parchment. And it was going to be, oh, Lauren, how did you not play? How did you bank a vote? You're about to get voted out of the game. To have it be Maddie who got voted for with the 1 vote from Brandon, that was a total blindside to me. And so I think that there's a lot of possible things that happen from the perspective of, that when they brought Matthew into the vote to tell Matthew, it's possible Matthew told Brandon to play the idol.
The only hesitation in that read, which is totally possible, is that Brandon really hesitated. Like it didn't seem like he was like ready to go. He was like, like my read on that, and I could be wrong, obviously, was that he was sort of observing and then kind of had a judgment call of, okay, there's a lot of, kookiness going on here. I'm going to be safe and play this thing. Everybody knows I've got it. It's lost a lot of its power anyway.
Yeah.
I was not that surprised with the Maddie vote because I think the episode showed us pretty clearly that Maddie was running all over the beach and she was clearly the one advocating for Brandon. It's not like these beaches are, massive. That's small. You see people doing things. And obviously there was a little bit of tension already between Maddie and Brandon. So I wasn't surprised that he would then switch the vote onto her. Maybe word got back to him somehow, like, hey, and maybe it was, maybe Matthew did, clue him in that, hey, you'd better play your idol because Maddie is really gunning for you. And then either way, Matthew plays his shot in the dark, which means he doesn't have to cast a vote. So whatever happens, he has no blood on his hands, which I thought was very smart because it did seem like he was nervous about being on the wrong side of the vote. I mean, as presumably they all were, and Kane said he was. And so like by playing the shot in the dark, suddenly he's like, oh, I didn't go for you.
Yeah, I do like that theory for Matthew. I think it's a little galaxy brain. I feel like that it is the kind of thing that maybe I would love to hear that from him in some capacity, that that's what he was doing. But it is pretty smart if that is the case. But I really am so confused about everything that happened with all of the maneuvering with these votes, because once Jamie plays her shot in the dark there, and she announces her intention to play her shot in the dark. Okay, so I mean, how many votes did they think they had on Brandon going in there?
I think it was down the line, and they don't know about the bank of vote. What is it called? It's bank of vote.
Bank of vote, yeah.
Bank of vote, yeah.
I mean, was Lauren so convinced that Matthew was voting with them? Because if he's not, it's like, okay, well, now I've just taken a 3-2 vote and made it a 2-2 vote. Like,
isn't it? I think they thought it was a 5-1 vote. I think they thought it was, everybody's voting Brandon. Who's 2 in that? Oh, you think Matthew was?
Yeah,
I think Matthew was pretty clearly. I think he was giving them, I'm voting with you vibes. I'm going to go with, wherever you guys want.
Yeah. I mean, Matthew was the one who came back and had the information about Lauren and was the one that's saying like, hey, we can't trust Lauren, that she's saying she has the advantage.
Brandon didn't say Lauren. He was like, I'll do whatever you guys want to do. He was like, I mean, poor Brandon, who's like, the kingmaker or whatever they called him, the godfather, literally like did not push for anybody. Like he was like, whatever you guys want, that's fine with me. And then, while everybody else is scrambling around, you see like him on the sidelines, just kind of holding his head in his hands. Really, it seemed like Maddie was looking to make a big move. I mean, Maddie correctly assessing that, Brandon was someone who, did not want to work with her. And I think, I mean, again, like from where I'm sitting, would have gone right had that whole like shot in the dark fiasco not happened. I think Maddie would have blindsided Brandon.
What happened to make Jamie play the shot in the dark?
But Jamie sounded like she was playing the shot in the dark no matter what, right?
Why?
Even earlier.
Why?
She's paranoid. I mean, like, who knows? Like,
now you don't have it for the next one.
I mean, nobody wants to be the first one out, right? I think that's the the fear.
I guess so, but isn't it like you also don't get a vote? Like
I would argue, or I would agree that it's not the most rational choice.
It's not the most rational choice.
Yeah.
But yet it hit also for Jamie. So I love that for her.
Yeah. It wasn't the most. She knew.
Yeah. The Matthew thing is interesting about trying to make your vote disappear on a close vote where you don't have to make the call. It's just what this was a while. And for Lauren in this spot to try to bank an extra vote here, at what cost?
I think people just get so focused on their own game, because there's so many mechanics now, right? There's so many different things happening. You're like, well, I've got this piece and I've got to move that thing there and that there. And it's like, you're totally lose sight of the broader tribe strategy. I mean, even this decision to vote out Brandon is so silly at the first vote with 3 6-person tribes when this is like by far the strongest guy. I mean, he gassed out of the challenge, but like he's still like,
might have something to do with the savvy challenge
which is then
challenge,
right? I mean, Matthew is missing an arm now, I mean, she was like, who was it? It was like, I'm strong, you're strong. And, I mean, no, neither of you were strong compared to Brandon.
Yeah. So for Lauren, was the plan just like so locked in that she told everybody she lost her vote? So she had to go to tribal council and then bank her vote and then say, hey, like I told you, I lost the vote. I didn't have a vote this tribal council.
Right. I mean, I think that's right. That seems to be it. Like you can't,
I'm
have like gone back on that.
I mean, you could have, yeah.
Right. But that would create more. I mean, everyone was again like, in their own little, in their own narrative that they forgot. But truly, if I wonder if Matthew had not played the shot in the dark. I mean, again, like a lot of this is speculative.
Yeah.
But if Brandon, if Matthew plays a shot in the dark, if Brandon thinks that Matthew and he are voting together, and then Matthew plays a shot in the dark, suddenly he has to be wondering what's going on. Right. Like regardless of anything Matthew has told him. Like if your number one ally suddenly pulls a move like that, you're like, wait a second, something's wrong.
It's a really interesting theory. And I do wish that they would have shown us what he is thinking there in that spot. They didn't even show us him voting in that spot. So, we just come away from this tribal council. Yes, like it was, we are shocked, but we are also so confused about the motivations of so many people at this tribal council and really like what was like preordained and what is sort of like improvised at tribal council.
Well, let's talk about, do you think that Maddie's choice to target Brandon, was that just I think it was a bad choice because, way too soon. People have lost sight of the tribe game. Like they're so focused on the long game and the individual game that they've totally lost sight of like the short game and the middle game. Do you think there was any merit to that? Or like, was that just totally flawed?
It's such a interesting discussion because with these small tribes that you really get started on the wrong foot. We saw so many times in season 43 where it was like the women got voted out early in the small tribes, and then that just led to like a avalanche of more and more women getting voted out. So I totally understand from the perspective of the women in the small tribes of like, hey, the first person to go here can't be one of the women.
Right.
And if they have Kane and you have Brandon who has an eye, like I can see why, you arrive at, okay, it should be either Brandon or Matthew. And she had already had the thing with Brandon over the birdcage idol. And so I understand why she arrives at that.
Right. I just always like, I guess you're right. Like you
what
need to
would
sort
have
of
been
set
the better
tone
move for
early, because
Yeah.
otherwise if your group is behind out of the gate, like, and then you lose again,
Yeah.
which PS like eliminating Brandon, much likelier going to happen.
Yeah. She has very limited options about where to go, and somebody has to go home.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your thoughts about the birdcage idol as it pertains to this tribe. Okay, so we have Brandon. He finds the key, and I thought that it was an interesting move where I think you see he's sort of thinking about, oh, should I tell anybody? Like, does she see that I have the thing? He makes the decision. Okay, she's right here. I don't want this getting out that I'm holding the key. I'm going to bring her in and tell her what's going on, and then he sort of like lets her suggest the idea of, she suggests, hey, should we tell anybody? And like, wow, this was really smart from Brandon, because he got her to be the one to say, we shouldn't tell anybody. This could just be our thing. But then it was like, once she suggested it, then he's like, no, we got to tell everybody.
It's such an interesting choice there, because I actually see some, like, so obviously I've been a long time advocate of this idea that you want something to bond two people together, like brings people together, creates alliances. And Maddie kind of suggested that in her confessional, like, hey, this could be something that brings him and I closer together, him and me closer together. And the counter argument is, he really would have been putting himself very much in her hands in that situation, where presumably he has the idol. Then suddenly this person who he doesn't obviously totally trust, he doesn't feel an immediate connection with, is the one who is going, can say to anybody like, oh, hey, Brandon's got the idol. Like, and then suddenly there's whispers around him that he can't control. And obviously we don't know, he doesn't know it's an idol yet either. So, the probably smart thing to do at that point would have been to open it and just see what it is and then decide if they wanted to share it, rather than sharing it out of the gate. But I do see the argument of, especially in these seasons where there's so much back channeling now of information, and that didn't used to be the case.
There is so much back channeling, and unfortunately, they have not seen Survivor 43. I do think that for us on the outside, that the lessons learned from Survivor 43 is like, you would not want to tell the whole tribe, that you have the idol, especially in the knowledge is power era.
Right.
That you definitely do not want multiple people to know that you're in possession of the idol, especially when you get to the merge, because of basically that idol is up for grabs.
But you don't want someone who you don't trust and who you don't connect with to really have your fate in the game in their hands. And so much of Survivor is vibes, right? It's like, who am I vibing with? So, the bigger question is like the moment before that, right? When Brandon takes the key and puts it in his pocket. Both Dalton Ross and Jesse from last season, both great students of the game, they were like, absolutely shouldn't have said anything to Maddie at that point. Dalton said what he should have done is, come back later, open the thing, open the cage, fill it with, take whatever's in there, fill it with rocks, close the cage, throw the key in the ocean.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Indiana Jones. I was less sure of that because he correctly assessed that Maddie knew something was up, right? Like Brandon correctly guessed that Maddie had seen something, but like, she can't prove anything. But still, if she goes back and is, whispering, oh, I think you found it, like that creates a target on him. It's a very difficult position. I don't think it was as obvious as Dalton and Jesse were suggesting, but I wanted your point of view, Rob. Like the moment where he finds the key and then he like does that weird stretch and puts it in his pocket. And then Maddie kind of says, well, if you found something, the tribe should know, hint, hint. What should Brandon have done there?
I mean, I like the idea of sharing it with Maddie. I think that there was an opportunity, and maybe if they're not totally like vibing, and it's not necessarily working out. But I did think he sort of panicked and then told everybody in the group. Like I did not like that from a strategic point of view. Now, ultimately, it all works out very well for Brandon, where he ultimately is able to eliminate Maddie, play the idol. No harm, no foul for him moving forward. And, this whole like sorted mess is able to sort of like a reset after all of this. But I do think that there could have been a way for him to have played this cleaner and not have like alienated Maddie, where he was taking on votes and having to play his idol at the first tribal council.
And this does alienate him, right? The fact that Kane, the one person, poor Kane, who explicitly said, I don't want to vote for Brandon, but I also don't want to be on the wrong side of the votes, is now both voted for Brandon and was on the wrong side of the votes.
Yeah.
And the only person left who voted for Brandon, poor Kane, but creates an alienation with Kane. I mean, obviously, everybody else gets off scot-free because nobody else voted for him. But I also think there's just an element of, it's like day 2. It's like you're not very good at Survivor on day 2. You get better.
Yep. Yeah, there's a learning curve for sure. Yeah. I do feel like that this tribe is basically able to just like go back to the drawing board. There's so many people that, 3 of the 5 people that are in this tribe didn't even vote at the last tribal council. And so I think that Brandon and Kane maybe can work things out and they move on from there. But it's going to be very fun to see where this hot mess tribe goes from here.
Yeah. I mean, not the only hot mess tribe out there either.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very messy season, Stephen.
Yeah. It's very fun. Very fun out of the gate. So,
this was the season that they made the editorial choice to start the season really with a blooper.
Yeah. With we never get the question from the crew. We never get the full interview like that.
I mean, I feel like that outside of, some scenes that were shown to us in season 39 for very different reasons, I don't think we've ever heard the voice of a producer asking a question to one of the survivors in the show.
Yeah, very fun way. I mean, you certainly wouldn't think it would be like the first moment, but it's definitely setting a tone of, a little more loosey-goosey.
Yeah. Okay. Give me your feelings on Carolyn.
I mean, obviously a very fun character, very much herself. A lot of the problem I think we saw in the, sort of like middle seasons of like the Carolyn type of character was that they were too self-aware. Like they were obviously performing. Like Debbie, for example, was someone who was erratic, but was obviously playing it up. And Carolyn feels more like a Nora, maybe, where it's less that, or so less like a Phillip and more like, I don't know, maybe Phillip his first time out was very like, so, a little kookiness is appreciated. I mean, I always feel a little iffy about someone who seems like maybe not totally to have it together, like being put into this super stressful situation that probably will not help them get it together. People don't come out of Survivor feeling like more whole, more like stable people.
Yeah. So I'm pretty high on Carolyn.
Yeah.
And the reasons why I'm high on Carolyn is because that I feel like that Survivor has evolved so much to the point where everybody knows the game so well, and people can eyeball, that person's a sharp operator. I'm watching out for that person, watching out for that person, watching out for that person. It's like, oh, all right, her, I don't need to worry about her. She's fine. Not a threat. Not worried about Carolyn. They didn't have to go to the first tribal council, which I think that the longer, of course, it makes sense, but the further she makes it, I think the longer she's going to be around, that she's going to be get her feet under her and get embraced more and be more endearing to the other people that are in the tribe. And this was kind of like with Marianne in Survivor 42, where, is a little bit her tribe talked about what it was like living with her. But I think she became even more and more endearing to people as the season went along. And I feel like that she's so authentically Carolyn. I feel like that she has a real chance to be somebody who just you look up and she's in the final 4.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that's like the Holly Hoffman narrative, right? Of someone has a really hard time those first few days and then kind of really gets, I mean, I don't see Carolyn becoming quite as dominant a strategic player as Holly, but
I also don't think she's having as hard of a time as Holly had in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
Holly had a breakdown and was going to throw Dan's shoes. Carolyn, I mean, Carolyn is not having a breakdown. She's she's chopping at the bit, wanting to talk to somebody.
And P.S., her read is correct. They are avoiding her. Her read of nobody's coming over to talk to me. What do I do? that's actually a very real Survivor problem. You're like, you want people to approach you. You don't want to be the person who's like lingering at like, hello, like at the side of the conversation. Like, so she has the self-awareness that is happening to around her. She also has the discipline not to go over and like be that person. So that's actually a lot like better than a lot of Survivor players. Most people like would be that person. They would go to the conversation. So for Carolyn to like not do that is actually pretty good, you know. And then, you know, but then of course we see her have that super awkward conversation with Helen, and a very funny conversation. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's like real strategic hope for Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm loving her on the show. I like from her background also, she's played a lot of like Survivor ORGs and stuff. So she like knows the show and the game
Right.
very, very well also. And I feel like that she just might be like extremely like overstimulated, like being out there in Fiji. And so like, you know, she gets to day 6, you know, day 7, maybe like she starts to like get a little bit more grounded. But I think she's going to be such a fun person to watch in this season.
Right. And also, like, not for nothing, but the one person who she had been talking to just got, you know, pulled away from her. So, like, presumably, like, the one person who, you know, she started to build an alliance, and then that got removed quite suddenly.
Yeah. Should we talk about the Bruce thing? I mean, man,
that was really upsetting.
A tough blow. And really, he's just like so excited to get out the gate. And just went like head first into one of these obstacles.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't, you know, I try to avoid some of the preseason content, but so I can have like the pure, you know, unfiltered show experience. But people said that he seemed amazing, like just so positive and great and wonderful and full of like a great energy.
I mean, Jeff seemed to really love him. I mean, he called him like, you know, a bright light, and said that, you know, he's such a, you know, a positive force. And so, you know, Jeff seems like really, you know, devastated to lose Bruce.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seemed, I mean, like a real bummer, especially for that tribe, which is not, you know, not a particularly athletic tribe to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I noticed like when they came out, you know, it seems like that there's almost like no question. I feel like that in the past, you know, Jeff has like sort of like talked it through with medical. All right, tell me, like, what's the prognosis? It seemed like that Jeff, at the time he came out for Bruce, and maybe it was like that they said, okay, let's let him go back in the game. If anything else comes up, he's definitely out of here. It seems like that the medical evacuation like rules are sort of like, it's a little bit more like cut and dry of like, you know, I feel like that they're really like, they're not taking any chances.
Well, with a head injury, I think like that.
Well, I mean,
gushing blood. I mean,
Bruce, like it seemed like he couldn't even sit up at the time that they took him out of the game.
That seems like it's not like, I mean, you know, they put Matthew's arm in a sling, like, you know, like, but like a head injury is a different beast entirely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had that. Then you had also Matthew taking that fall that we saw in the preview for season 44. Steven, I can't believe the producers let them climb these rocks. Like that to me, see, and Cody did it last season, but I gotta say, like, this seems like, you know, what's the upside here? I think I would have a rule of like no climbing the giant rocks, no jumping.
I don't know. There's a little bit of like, it's still Survivor. I mean, I'm not like some like hardcore. In my day, we could do anything. We could like, you know, because we couldn't. But it's still like you're still living in the jungle. It's not supposed to be like a safe. You know, there aren't a railing around all of the precipitous ledges. You know, it's still like but extreme wilderness adventure.
I don't know. You're a parent. Like, it's like you see somebody climbing, like, get down from there. Get down. Get down. Get down from there. Get down. Do not climb on the rocks.
I mean, that is specifically seen, and maybe now there will be that rule.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But it does feel in general like you shouldn't just arbitrarily create rules about how things people aren't allowed to do on Survivor. And then once something happens, like maybe you can say like, hey, that's not a safe rock to climb on. But like they're out there having like a wilderness adventure. If it's all like, you can stay on this path, but don't like look to your left or to your right, that takes away from the adventure of it all.
I guess so, but if Matthew falls off the rock and dies, like that's the end of Survivor.
Well, didn't you guys have like jaguars stalking you in the Amazon? I mean, there was like
and they told the jaguars, stop, get away from there, get away from those castaways.
Yeah. I just think that's part of the show. I mean, like it was probably not the smartest thing for him to do. But yeah.
I think they gotta, to tell these castaways, like, protect them from themselves. Don't let them be climbing on dangerous rocks. Enough.
Yeah. Maybe the problem was the inspirational confessional he had just given. He was so, he just given this big confessional about his like being an adventurer, and now he's like, oh, I got to go do some adventuring.
I want to give the credit to the editors, and maybe that this is something that maybe I only feel this way, but I feel like that the Survivor editors in this 2-hour premiere were able to give us a lot of backstory and character moments without over leaning on flashbacks to past history of trauma I feel like that they became over reliant on here in the new era. I think we all like thought it was an interesting storytelling device when they introduced it in Survivor 41, but I felt like that when you got so many flashbacks in these episodes that I felt like they all started to blend together, and it wasn't as special. There was only, by my count, just one of those in this episode where we got Matthew right before he fell. Everybody else was able to like a little bit more like organically kind of give us some of their story.
Yeah. And even that one with Matthew, it was more positive. It was more about, hey, like this is my spirit of adventure and I'm excited to be here, instead of, this is the sad thing back home that I'm trying to escape or that I'm trying to redeem. And I thought that, I mean, obviously that's not to minimize those people who do really have sad things, but I think we sort of last season, it became like everyone had a sad thing. I was like, Cody's was like, oh, my friend, whatever. That was really sad. But, but it was like, you were putting like that on a plane with someone who's had a much more immediate and horrible trauma, and they all seem to, like you said, they all seem to blend together. And I remember someone tweeting to me last season, like, an Australian Survivor, they do it differently. Like some people like have these backstory confessionals that are about their passion or about their special skill or about
that's a good take.
And so, and then I felt like this was more in that vein of, it gave us context to him and why he was out there and what was driving him. But it wasn't like just that one note of, I got tragedy back home.
Yeah. Going back to the medical situation, and then to also then have during the challenge, to have another medical situation.
Yeah.
Brandon has to get examined by medical.
Yeah. And then that was interesting too. I mean, he just totally, well, I guess it was like heat stroke, or he overheated or
I don't think it was quite a heat stroke.
But
that's some sort of like overexertion, and then but basically this new Survivor doctor, they're really putting this guy to the test.
Coming in
the
strong.
MASH unit.
Yeah.
But really, he's like, oh, he's good, he's sitting up, we got him some water, he's right back in it. So it basically he had to like sit out the end of the challenge,
which may have cost the team the victory, because, I mean, it certainly didn't, it seemed like moving those blocks was hard for all of them. So, and he was, I remember they kept on calling him over, Brandon, come over here. We need you to help push this. So it's totally possible that it cost them the challenge.
Yeah. I want to remind the audience to submit their questions for us to answer later on in the show. You can do that right here in the chat here live on YouTube, and we'll get to those in a little bit. Stephen, who are some other standouts for you here in the premiere of Survivor 44?
I mean, so many. I honestly love the entirety of Soka Tribe. I mean, the Franny Matt thing that's happening. First of all, Franny was super fun, and so was Matt. Matt was super fun. They were just both like, they really spoke to me as like a geeky, awkward nerd, enthusiastic, anxious, like wanting to be there, but like, oh my God, like now I'm away from my tribe. Like, oh my God, is my life over? I loved them. And like this fact that maybe there's a little, something happening between them. Who knows? I mean, there's supposed to be a showmance this season.
There's supposed to be a showmance. So
I don't see who else it could be other than, that's the groundwork. So
very
fun.
Exciting.
The two of them. I really like both of them. I really had like a positive vibe off of Matt's energy.
Are we okay? So let's see. We got
Claire.
Franny
We didn't talk about that great moment with Claire.
Frat? Okay.
What?
Frat.
Fat.
Frat.
Oh,
Frat. Fat. What are you talking
Well,
about?
that's
Yeah.
what I heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The frat. Yeah.
Okay. So
Or
yes, all right,
Manny.
let's talk about this amazing moment that happened between Claire and Matthew at the challenge where they're both on the sit-out bench.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Claire, who also, Mike Bloom pointed out on Twitter, also in this episode, cheated looking at the puzzle to
Good
help
for
her team.
her. By the way, P.S. Like Jeff would not have used to have allowed that. He would have allowed it, but he would have like yelled at you about it. He would really call. He would have really aggressively called them out about it.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Okay,
he's got other things on his mind.
All right. So we saw where we had this moment where Claire said to Matthew about, hey, did the person who came back from the Shipwheel Island, what did they say? And that Matthew said, like, oh, well, Matt B, he showed us the thing. He showed us the paper. I'm sorry, that Claire said that Matt showed us the paper.
Yeah.
Matthew's, really, she didn't show us the paper. Interesting. So he takes that nugget back, and Claire says to him, I like you. That's good. And this was something, that this was something that we have not really seen this much in US Survivor. I just saw in the chat that it was like very much Australian Survivor, where there is a lot of intermingling that happens between the players, both before, after, and during the challenges, where information is exchanged. I love this.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. I mean, why not? You have a moment, you can create some dissension. If she does have the advantage, you can put a target on it and get it out of the game, and then, win some points with a potential, future merge mate.
Yeah, what a smart idea, especially in the new era where it's like, hey, is somebody looking for beads at your camp? Like, basically any sort of like sus behavior, you can sort of like bounce off of people from the other tribes.
And we've always sort of wondered why there wasn't more of that, why people weren't exchanging information more. Like, hey, like with the beads specifically, we were saying, well, surely they'll all exchange information and know about the beads, which did not seem to be the case because no one knew that Carl had an idol. But but
there's so much, I think, sort of like tribe loyalty, but nobody really has in this new era been really like exploring about like, okay, let me just feel out and make sure everybody in my tribe is telling me the truth with vetting information from the other tribes.
Yeah. And I mean, we should talk too about just that whole, we haven't even, my gosh, this big episode. We should talk about Shipwheel Island.
Okay. Shipwheel Island. They changed it up. Okay. For the better or for the worse, Stephen?
I don't know. I wanted you to answer that question.
So I think it's better because I think it's less confusing, even though it is confusing to start. But I think you sort of like, you have to put a thing in. And then, because I think it removes the, okay, well, if both people do this, it's like, it's a little confusing, but it's confusing just like you have to just understand the game that they're playing. Right. And then you don't have to understand all the different like machinations of how it works.
But there's no interaction, I mean, I guess this becomes the interaction of like, comparing notes. But and also the advantages, at least two of the advantages were different, which is super interesting too.
Yeah. So I don't know what the advantage that Matt B could have gotten was. Right. The two advantages introduced officially into the game. First, we had the like bank advantage, which Lauren got, which we talked about. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure this had already been in the game before. Lauren Rimmer in season 35 found an extra vote. But to use the extra vote, she had to like go write no vote. It was not called the bank advantage, but the same mechanism was in the game previously. But then we also have the inheritance advantage. Okay, Stephen, apparently Sarah has a thing that at any tribal council, she plays it. I'm not sure if it's known to all that she's playing it. and then she gets all of the advantages played at a certain tribal council?
So I asked, so Mike Bloom tweeted that it's played when the votes are when you vote. So nobody would know. Now when she gets the advantages, I don't know yet. Dalton apparently has the scoop on that in his recap.
Okay.
He didn't tweet. He tweeted that he had the scoop. He did not tweet the scoop. Good for him, getting the clicks. But apparently that full information will be in his recap. But Mike did tweet the scoop that in the text on the parchment, it said you play it when you play your votes.
Okay. When you play your votes,
or sorry, when you vote, so it's like
vote,
basically the it's like the idle nullifier, right? You're like playing it, going into tribal council, thinking like, hey, this might be a good one.
Yeah, because Survivor always wants to bake in with these advantages the way for you to misplay the advantages.
Right. If you just waited till a bunch of advantages were played and then we're like, thank you. Like that would be that would be
not, an advantage getting. Yeah. You walk away with all the advantages. Yeah, that would be nice. So they have to like bake in a way for you to actually screw it up.
Do you think it includes shots in the dark?
I don't think so. Somebody asked me this earlier tonight, but I don't think the shots in the dark are officially advantages.
Right. They're like just a thing. Hey, can I just like brief sidebar for a total fan fiction? What if?
Should I play the music cue?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's set up Stephen for a total sidebar for a complete fan fiction.
What if
I'm like a storyteller? That's what I do.
The vote for Ratu was supposed to be Lauren, but Brandon put one on Maddie in case Lauren played her shot in the dark.
Wow. New era of Survivor, baby. It's incredible.
Okay. Anyway, back to the inheritance advantage. So do you like this more or less than the knowledge is power advantage?
I don't know. I need to sit with it for more than a day, and get back to you on this. Like, I think it's fine, but I feel like we're really like grasping at straws on these advantages.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how she gets the advantages, how they're delivered to her.
Is it announced that then like does Jeff like, oh, the inheritance advantage has been played, and so any advantages played at this tribal council will go like after they like before the votes are read, but after the advantages are played.
Yeah. I mean, it's all in the execution, right? It's all in how it happens.
Yes.
It was interesting to me that of the basically there were three possible outcomes and all three happened. Like one, the person drew the advantage. Two, the person got a no vote and then a no vote. And then three, the person got a no vote and the advantage. I mean, there was a fourth possible, possible option where someone just drew a no vote and then didn't draw again. But it was interesting that they all had different, different things happen to all three of them.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, that's just life in the new era on Shipwheel Island.
I guess so.
Yeah. What do you think about Lauren said that she stacked the deck so that she knew which rock to pick?
That was so great.
She's very sneaky.
Good for her. Yeah. That's awesome.
Got a lot of plans going on.
Yeah. I really like Lauren a lot.
All right. Let me just throw a couple other names at you, and then we'll start to get to some questions. What do you think about Carson?
Very fun. I think Carson, because of his exuberant Twitter persona, has had a little bit of a microscope on him, but hey, that's
probably loves that.
Yeah. But I thought he was very fun. He was humble. He didn't want to put himself out there. But I mean, holy cow, the fact that he put on 30 pounds in 3 months is unbelievable.
Can we get some more information about the how to put on 30 pounds of muscle in like 3 months?
He's just been roiding it up.
Because you can go find my Survivor the Amazon pictures and see what it looks like if you just put on 30 pounds anyway.
Very fun moment with him and Helen just acing that rings challenge. I thought that, fun,
loved
fun
when Carolyn was struggling in the rings challenge and then had to take her pants off. That the pants were holding her back.
That was what was holding her back, was the pants.
Yeah. So that was great. Okay. Jam
Obviously super fun, great. I mean, this is a very fun cast. You know, it's hard to say. Jam Jam, super fun, great character. You know, great confessionals. Seems very affable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. The idea for the Orange Tribe to punt on Savvy to go all in on Sweat. Thought that the Savvy challenge was the easiest Savvy challenge we've seen.
yeah, but also the very fact that they only had 15 minutes. I mean, previously they had much longer, right? For the
Right.
triangles challenge, didn't they have like hours to figure it out?
I think they had like unlimited time to do
Yeah.
the triangles.
Right, but they could only guess once. I mean, the 15 minutes, I would have been scared of that too. Like if you've seen the previous ones and you're thinking I'm only going to have 15 minutes to do something like that, I would have been nervous about that one.
Okay. All right. Stephen, anything else?
Gosh. Oh man, it's a lot of pressure. What about you? Any other standout characters?
Maddie, very sad to see her go.
Yeah,
and
very fun.
As Marianne had pointed out with me on the podcast, Curse of the M's.
Curse of the M's.
Women pre-merge, letter M.
Yeah.
It's like I watched the episode, and then when it was Maddie, I just like yelled at my screen like the curse. They got another one.
Yeah.
So and
incredible. Josh, I think it's not too early to say that Josh is probably the most purple contestant in Survivor history. Purple Josh, is that right? You like that?
I'm not sure. He got the least?
No, I'm pretty sure he got the least, but did he have any? He might have had one.
He did have one confessional, but it was like very vanilla and generic.
Yeah. Or early, like out of the gate. It's hard. You know, they such a strong tribe and a lot going on over there.
Okay.
Oh, and very fun with Heidi making the, she made the fire. It was good.
Yeah, Heidi made the fire. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it. We pretty, we nailed it. It only took us 47 minutes. Took them 2 hours.
Yeah. Stephen, we're gonna get some questions from the listeners. Big shout out to a very robust live audience here to see the two unofficial Survivor know-it-alls talking about the episode. So thank you so much for being here with us live. Let me tell you about something that's coming up here in a couple of weeks. If you want to get together in person,
I would love
for
to.
one of these. If you'd love to, I have some good news for you. Because Stephen, March 29th, I am going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina, with some of my Survivor friends, Stephen, and we're going to get together for RHAP Live coming up at the Duke Energy Center here in my new hometown.
Was that a power plant?
No, it is not a power plant, but it is that the sponsor of the arena is the power company.
I see. Okay.
So we have our first live show here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm very excited. The First Lady of Podcasting is going to be there. So very much looking forward to getting together with all of my friends and neighbors here.
All your friends? I won't be there. What about me? I'm one of your friends.
Well, look, it's a 4-hour drive. Head on down. So I will be there live. We will watch the episode and, of course, podcast panel with some Survivor friends there to talk about it all. Tickets are on sale to all now at robhasawebsite.com/Raleigh. That's robhasawebsite.com/Raleigh. All right, Stephen, let's get to some questions here from the listeners. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about, let's see. How about Dan has a question. With the changes to the sweat versus savvy test, do you feel like the producers obviously expected the second place team to pick savvy? They didn't. The sweat task being hardest for the losers.
I don't know, because I think a lot of the time a lot of the tribes have picked sweat because they didn't want to risk it with the savvy. I wonder, sweat has probably been picked more than savvy, right?
You know what? I feel like that in season 41, both tribes picked sweat.
Yeah.
In season 42, both picked savvy.
Oh, okay.
And in 43, I think it was 1-1.
Right. Okay. So I don't think it's a no, it's obvious, and again, like the 15 minutes, it's a big risk. You really, especially not seeing what the puzzle is.
Yeah. It also seemed like that they made them like stand like a certain distance away.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Did you like that Carson was like trying to not like be the person to be put
What's
into
funny
the
is
puzzle?
that, like, I mean, when Jam, what was it? Voluntold him to do it. Yes, that was humorous. I don't know though. Like, you don't want to be the one to volunteer. And maybe someone else, and not even just so to keep yourself out of the spotlight, but my experience was that everyone wanted to do it. You don't want to like be the person who like stops someone else from having their like big moment. Or their moment to fall on their face. You just like, I think not. That was one of my favorite Carson moments, was when he was like, I don't know, this is, and we know that he's been studying puzzles and
yeah,
to not leap
building
forward, like,
3D
I'm the puzzle
puzzles.
guy, like, that's just like,
you don't want to be too exuberant.
yeah.
Okay.
And Helen just aced that, that was very, even the screen was glowing. She was like, the way she was putting it together. It's like that meme, with like the equations.
Yeah. Okay. So then a question from Lucas wants to know, Stephen, could the castaways break into the cage to claim the idol?
I don't think so. I was thinking that
Pick
too.
up a big rock.
Just get a rock.
Bash the side of that thing until they can reach inside. With the bruises, see, they would shut that down.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a mechanic of the game. That's not like the adventure. I mean, look, they're probably not going to let people climb on that rock, so you will be happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How about this question from Devin?
All right, Devin Barham wants to know, is the inheritance advantage basically the knowledge is power that can't fail? Well, it can fail because you may play it at the wrong time. You might play it at the wrong tribal council, and none of the advantages are played. You have to be sure. In fact, in many ways, it's like a more certain. It's likelier to fail than the knowledge is power advantage.
Yeah, and also it's like a way for them to like get the idols and advantages like back into the game. And they get played without having to like have the sequence of like people finding the idols. So, and it's also kind of like a little bit like going back to Dalton Ross's favorite, like the medallion of power. It's like the one alliance like has the idols and everything,
right?
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, they could play them, but now we have them.
Yeah. That's a very good point of like getting more things back in without having to like have the like, where is it?
And also you have to survive that tribal council also. Like, it's like, okay, I know your side is playing an idol tonight. But like, okay, we want to get the idol also.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah. So it'd be very interesting to have Sarah have the idol and also the inheritance.
Can you do that? Oh my gosh, that would be such an interesting move. Good call.
Yeah, then she plays it and like, all right, put the votes on Sarah tonight. She just played her idol. Like, aha. Okay. How about this question from Ryan Irwin Comedy?
Ryan Irwin Comedy wants to know, question, what are your thoughts on Sarah lying about the mechanic of Advantage Island? Lying about the outcome is one thing, but when someone else will go to the island, they will know she is lying. This is a great point, Ryan.
Yeah, probably not a great idea, right?
Yeah, because as soon as someone else goes, they're going to see that it's different than the thing she said.
Yeah. So what did she say? She just basically said it was like last season?
I think she said it was like last season. Yeah. Or maybe she said only one person got it. I don't remember exactly what she said. I do remember that she did not actually give the correct mechanic. Maybe she said that only one person could get it, and like it wasn't her. I don't remember what it was exactly. Yeah.
All right, Stephen. All right, here's something that'll blow your mind. Okay. Dizzy Mapping says Bruce from Panama medevac, Bruce from 44 medevac. Coincidence? I think not.
Mike Bloom tweeted this earlier too. Like, definitely, there's a Bruce curse.
There's a Bruce curse. So Stephen, I was very worried that, Bruce, like, obviously he had that very bad injury. And of course he's like bleeding profusely during the challenge. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, these contestants just watched Survivor 42 when the contestants covered themselves in mud and fake blood. Wow. Nobody's going to have sympathy for Bruce. They're going to think he got a fake advantage.
That's not what happened. But
That's
that
not
would
what
have been very
happened. But I was
unfortunate.
like, oh my God, they're not gonna believe him.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back and like, yeah, right, okay, all right, buddy. Yeah,
I saw
I've seen this. Yeah, nice one. Rubbing blood all over yourself. Not falling for that. It was in the first challenge too.
Yeah. It's very funny.
Okay. All right. Here, Steve, what about this question from Rainer?
All right. Rainer wants to know. Rainer Rodriguez wants to know. Question: who do you think came out best from the tribal? Matt G, Lauren? That's a good question. Who's got the who came out best?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's of the two people that were no voters. I feel like probably
3 people who are no
Matt?
voters.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess probably number one was Jamie. Jamie came out the best.
Really? I feel like not, because she was like playing it out of paranoia, which is sort of an annoying thing to do for your alliance, right? Like it was like everyone who, everyone, they've kind of all, what's funny is like they should all be annoyed at each other, but like because they all did it, like you can't really get annoyed at the next person for not voting when none of you voted. They all had a plan, none of them voted, and then the plan went haywire. I think probably, I mean, Lauren is going to have, I guess Lauren said she lost her vote, and then she gets, she gets to bank a vote. So it actually kind of worked out well for her. I would maybe say Lauren. I mean, Matt G, because he, was not the first one to play the thing. So he doesn't get the like opprobrium of, you sent this plan awry. He got to, his best buddy was saved, and he didn't have to vote against him. I think Matthew G, but I mean, I could certainly see an argument for Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, from a positioning standpoint, I think that Matthew is probably in the best spot, but maybe in terms of like a treasure that they walk away with, Lauren is set up the best.
Yeah, Kane definitely the worst.
Kane the worst. Who do you think, if this tribe goes to tribal council in week 2, who do you think goes home?
I think Jamie.
Okay, yeah.
I think the paranoia thing is going to be, that's always the person.
Look, she's the answer to a Survivor trivia question forever.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
she did it. Nobody could ever take that away from her. All right. Emily Rogers when was the last time there was a showman? Steven, do you recall?
Well, they said 37, but I'm thinking, and then apparently the answer is like Dan and Kara, but that wasn't a showman. It's like the narrative that season was like Dan was like obsessed with Kara. She was not into it.
And then like Alec and Kara like post show, but I guess that was
not on the show.
It wasn't on the show. Yeah, I guess that was. I see. I would have said Cole and Jessica. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too. I think that is like that's like. But Jeff said since 37, but they must be thinking of. Unless they're thinking of like Christian and Gabby, but like that was platonic.
No, that was not a showman's.
No, Christian had a girlfriend. It was platonic.
So I guess they must be talking about Dan and Kara.
Which is weird because again, like not a showman's, right? Like at no point did Kara express an interest in Dan. Like that's like the
it was sort of like that he had like a crush on her, and she was like, "Oh, this is fun," and then eventually like, this guy's kind of creeping me out.
Right. Right. So I can't think of anything in 37 other than that. So I think you're right. I think it was Cole and Jessica.
This is a good question. Sophie also wants to know, what do you think Brandon knew? I'm sorry. Don't you guys think that Brandon knew he would play his idol, considering he voted for Maddie? As far as he knew, it seemed nobody else was voting her way. Do you think that all the shots in the dark tipped him off, or do you think that he was playing his idol all the way?
What does that mean? Don't you guys think Brandon knew he would play his idol, considering he voted for Maddie? As far as he knew, it seemed nobody else was voting her way. I mean, the fact that he voted for Maddie at all is, I mean, we just don't know, right? Like maybe he thought everyone was voting for Maddie. Like, why would his playing his idol? I don't understand the premise of the question.
She wants to know that, do you think he came into that tribal council knowing that he would play his idol?
But why does like him having voted for Maddie, like what is the significance of that relative to the question?
Knowing that his one vote would potentially
knock her out. He maybe figured that everybody else was voting for him. It's interesting. I mean, his answers at tribal sure made it seem like he thought the person getting voted out was, not the strongest person in the group, right? Which maybe hopefully he wouldn't think about himself.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I mean, it's just like we need some more info. It's an interesting speculation, of it's an interesting thought, like, because he's voting for the one person who nobody else has mentioned voting for, maybe he must have been planning to idle her out. It's possible he knew that he was getting voted for, and that it's interesting because he said something about like the snake slithering, and then Lauren said like, well, him saying that kind of ills me out. I wonder if, and maybe you're right, that Matthew did tip him off that he was getting votes and that he should play his idol. And so then he felt like maybe Matthew, it's a totally decent narrative. Like Matthew tipped him off like, hey, Maddie's gunning for you. Everybody's voting for you. You got to play your idol.
I can't see why Matthew wouldn't want Brandon to stay in the game. Like, especially if he was like, if the issue is like, he's too powerful, he has an idol. Well, it's like, okay, well, if Maddie, who is not necessarily like a close ally of my number one, I have to pick who's going to go home. Like, why don't I tell my number one to play the idol? I'll build trust with him. That get rid of the idol. And
no, that's a good narrative. Yeah. And two, like he could have, thinking, this way I'm not out. And then he plays a shot in the dark because then he doesn't have to.
I don't have to do anything. I'm
right.
Like,
he's not like taking a side with Brandon. He's not part of the vote at all.
Yeah. And so
if that's what he did, that's a pretty good move.
Then he's an incredible Survivor player that we've turned him into. So I like
this totally off the books narrative that we've
Matthew.
Created for him.
We love this for you. Yeah.
I think he might have a few idols and advantages in his pockets too.
Yes.
That we don't know about.
Okay. This is a trivia question that I don't know the answer to, Stephen. How about this one?
All right, MJ. First boot idled out.
Is Maddie the first boot to get idled out of the game?
Wow, maybe. That's interesting. I can't think.
I think so. I can't think of another one, and I'll look to the chat to see if they have the answer, because I feel like that they do are at the top of their game.
Yeah,
but yeah. So that's history for Matt, and I do think it will be a very illuminating exit interview with Maddie coming up on Thursday. Okay.
Too many people with very similar names. Matthew.
Luckily, some of that confusion is going to come to that. Okay. Yeah. All right, Stephen. Any other thoughts here tonight before we start to wrap this up?
Rob, this might not be an official podcast, but you were truly on fire tonight.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And how about this? Netflix's Stephen Fishbach here with us from the hit Survivor Tocantins. Yeah. Incredible. All right. So let me just talk a little bit about what's going on. And of course, you mentioned how, just an unofficial podcast, just like the little guy here in the Survivor podcast game, just chugging along and back for trying to eke out another season, keep the lights on. If you want to support what we're doing over here, become a patron of Rob Has a Podcast, robhasawebsite.com/patron. We've got a lot of value for you here in the start of the Survivor season. It's a great time to become a patron. I've got a brand new premium episode of the podcast coming out. It's called My One Burning Question. Every week, I'm going to do a deep dive into one Survivor question of the week and try to come up with an answer for it. It will be in the style of, if you watched at all, I did a Oops All Gabler rewatch of looking in for clues as to how Gabler did it.
Oh, that's really fun.
I'm going to be doing some premium episodes that are going to be for the patrons, and we'll drop it in the for everybody 5 days later. So early access to the premium episodes plus everything else in our podcast feed for the patrons. Also, connect with me and all of Rob Has a Planet as well. Become a part of the greatest reality TV community in the world and watch some international reality TV shows with us. We make it very easy to do. robhasawebsite.com/patron. Speaking of connecting with me as well, I'm going to be live with the patrons on Thursday for one of the new patron shows that we're doing, Patron Happy Hour. I'll be live at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about this episode. So I will be taking your calls on our Discord and our Facebook group. We put that out as a podcast as well, 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. All right. Then, of course, look, robisawebsite.com/survivor feed. More Survivor podcasts than you can listen to. I dare you. I dare you, the listener, to try to listen to everything we have coming up this week. Okay. More than you can possibly listen to.
Yeah.
Pick your poison. Okay. We've got everything coming up from me, from the team of Survivor podcasters. That's all at robiswebsite.com/survivor feed. Of course, Stephen, it's been a banner season of Australian Survivor.
I've
Shannon
heard.
Gus has been podcasting away. She will recap another great week of Australian Survivor. It's the merge this week. Mike Bloom joins Shannon for, I'm sure, hours and hours of recaps. And Stephen, I too have been checking in with Shannon Gus weekly. Yes. So catch the shorter recap to get my thoughts on everything that's going on.
Do Shannon and Mike have a portmanteau name? Like, I feel like they should. They're like such a dynamic duo of podcasting. Is there a portmanteau of Gus and Bloom? Gloom?
Gloom.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My Cannon?
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll work it out. But yeah, so lots of Australian Survivor coverage in a really, really fun season. It's heroes versus villains of Australian Survivor. Lots of fun stuff that they're doing on there. And then the Big Brother Canada cast dropped today. That's going to be kicking off next 1 week from tonight. And Karen Armstrong and Puya Zamakili got together for first impressions of the Big Brother Canada cast season 11. That's up at robhasawebsite.com. Okay. And then also, speaking of Puya Zamakili, he and Liana Boris are recapping The Masked Singer Wednesday nights. And so check that out. Make sure you're subscribed to our Masked Singer podcast feed or the Reality TV Wrap-Ups feed to hear everything going on over on the Masked Singer Wrap-Up. Plus, Stephen, we have a great opportunity for people who want to play in a very fun new Survivor app. To play in a weekly Survivor fantasy game. And the best part of all is you don't have to select your team until week 2.
Wow.
So you saw the first episode. You know not to pick Bruce now. You know not to pick Maddie now. And so go ahead and head on over to the Make Your Picks app. Download the Make Your Picks app for your iPhone or Android device. It's a fun thing that we're doing. We are not making any money from the Make Your Picks app, but we've partnered with them to give people a fun way to play a Survivor fantasy game this season. I'm in. I even got Dominic to draft a team as well. So that's the Make Your Picks app and select the Rob as a Podcast Fantasy League. You can play for free all season long. There's a lot of fun advantages and twists in the game as well. So fun weekly thing to add to your Survivor regimen. And Stephen, then is that the last one? Okay. I know people are asking for the fishy as well. Make sure you subscribe.
So like
robhasawebsite.com/subscribe for all of our links to subscribe to the podcast. Okay.
I feel like I need to give it to Brandon because we saw him, got an idol. He eliminated using that idol, the person who was, trying to get him out.
Yeah.
But a lot depends. I mean, if this, hypothetical Matt that we've painted comes, if any part of that, like we later learn, comes to, turns out to be real, I'm going to have to, give
so is
over.
this a fishy with like a conditional fishy to Brandon?
Fishy. It hasn't been official. It hasn't gotten the official fishy stamp of approval. It might be retroactively official.
Okay. All right. Well, Stephen, you are back in mid-season form.
Thank you very much.
You're ready.
Does it mean I'm like tired and like distracted?
No. You are on point. This has been so nice to catch up with you.
I know. It's like I have no friends, so I wait all winter to talk to you. I have no friends in DC. I have one friend in DC. no offense to him. He's a wonderful man. I'm
Wonderful
very,
guy.
very lucky
Yes.
to have him as a
Yes.
friend.
Well,
But other than him, I have nobody. So this is really the highlight of my week. I mean, I love my family, my daughter, my wife. They're great.
no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. I was, getting dressed this morning. Like, oh, this is I get to talk to Stephen tonight.
I know. It's great. It's really fun. Yeah.
And I don't take these for granted. So I really appreciate you being back with us for another season of the
Thank you for inviting me. My gosh,
No,
it's my
a
pleasure.
really, really fun night of Survivor. Thanks to everybody who was here with us live and everybody listening to the podcast. I think we're going to have a lot of fun this season.
I mean, my gosh, Jeff is so high on this season. I mean, my only he's so high. The last time I remember him being this high was like season 30.
Worlds apart. Yeah.
A cast that's like
What
way too
could
extra
go
on social
wrong?
media
Yes,
and like a super hype Jeff. Like it's a bad precedent.
Yep. All right. Well, look, let's see how it all turns out. Looking forward to a very fun Thursday on the podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.